Hi friends! This week I'm going to be testing out some new paint markers by the brand Grabby. I think that's how you say it. I think it was Chloe Rose who tried out some Grabby paint markers and really liked them, so let's see what I think. I have these 2 sets kindly sent to me by Grabby. I haven't opened them yet, so you're going to open them with me. We'll start with these fine tip markers. Extra fine tip markers. It says water-based ink, quick drying, multi-surface. There's 28 markers in the pack. And it came with a drawing pad in the back. Well, these definitely all need shaking. Okay, they're all shaken up now, however, they are not activated. So I'm gonna go back through and activate them all. Oh my god, look at how fast these things fill the tip. It's one press and they're full. Dang. Okay, now let's take a look at this drawing pad that came in the pack. The paper is nice and thick. It's like a cardstock thickness. And I love all these different colors. There's a black, a dark blue, this awesome lavender, a grayish green, and white. And there's swatch cards in the front in white and black. One of the problems I've noticed with these markers is that they have no color names or any other kind of labels differentiating them. So I'm not really sure how you're supposed to tell which color is Eminence and which color is Hibiscus. So I guess I'm going to sort of do a process of elimination and start with the obvious ones first. I have to say thank you for all of the love on my video last week and all of the awesomeness directed at my mama. She is doing better. She had her surgery, has a really gnarly incision on her arm, and obviously is still pretty swollen and bruised, but she doesn't have to wear a cast and she gets to start physical therapy soon. Weirdly, a family friend of ours fell off a jungle gym and hurt her elbow, so they get to wear matching slings. Okay, so I got through black, white, gold, and silver, and I'm already stuck. I'm looking at these greens, and we have sea green, forest green, olive green, and Verdun. What the heck is Verdun? Verdun is a city in France. That's helpful. I'm so confused. Let me see if they have a color chart on their website. Well, sort of. Okay, so Celadon is this color. I would have called that sea green. Sea green and forest green are really similar. This is olive. No, this is olive. Okay, cedar and cinnamon brown. How the heck do you tell? They look exactly the same. I'm guessing cedar should be darker? Coral and orange peel? Okay, cider and golden brown are for sure the exact same. Come on now. I guess I'll just pick. This is really annoying. I need to know. I hate not knowing. Okay, I'm still pretty annoyed that these markers don't have names on them. Like, even looking at their website, I'm still not sure I got the colors right. Am I blind? Can you tell the difference between this one and this one? Anyway, as far as the markers go, they seem pretty good. They are super juicy. I'm not sure that they're particularly quick drying since they are so juicy, but that's not a deal breaker for me. They seem to have pretty good coverage on the white swatches, but they probably need a second coat over a darker color, especially the lighter colors. I do generally like the color range. I do wish there was a few more lighter pastel colors, especially a lighter blue, but I can live with that. So now I need to test them out on a couple of different surfaces. So it's been a few days, obviously, since my nails have changed, and the markers have separated again. It's not a big deal. I can shake them again easily. I just was kind of surprised. Actually, after filming this, I tested another set of markers by a different brand, and they separated after about 20 minutes. So in comparison, this is nothing. I wonder if it's the formula of the paint and that's why they're super juicy. Like maybe they're more liquidy? Who knows? I'm not a paint scientist. The first thing I'm going to test them on is this wooden round. It's obviously pre-painted because I just keep these on my craft cart and throw on any leftover paint that I have as a background. I'm going to paint a rainbow popsicle because I've painted a popsicle a fair amount of times, so it should be harder to screw up. And I want to test out how hard these are to blend. So ultimately, I love how this came out, but that wasn't the point of the test. I struggled just a little bit with the colors because I wanted a pastel look, but there's not a super light version of each color. So the minty green that I chose first looked kind of off with the brighter yellow and blue on either side of it. I had to switch to this sort of guacamole green, which I wasn't too sure of, but ultimately it ended up okay. Now, paint markers aren't really meant to blend, but usually if you layer them enough and work with them when they're still wet, you can get an okay blend. And these held up okay when following that rule. The markers weren't quite as juicy as they were on the paper, but they weren't too bad. And these are definitely meant for small details and lines, and they are amazing for that. But I still wanted to try them on a large area to see how the coverage was, and I have to say that this black is pretty dang opaque on the first coat. The same with the white marker for the highlights. A fine tip white marker with good opacity is really hard to find. Speaking of the tip, since these are that plastic tip, they do still skip and splatter a bit. I think it's just the nature of that kind of tip. I wonder why it's this kind of tip that everyone uses for fine point markers, and not like a really small cottony tip like the bigger markers have. Can they just not make them that small? Would the paint gunk up? Well, since the markers worked pretty well on wood, I want to try them on paper. And I want to see if I can do something much more colorful and use as many of the colors in the set as I can. I'm going to use a sheet of black paper from the drawing pad. So for this painting, drawing, do I call it a painting or a drawing? I'm using paint, but someone once commented that it's not really painting, it's more drawing. Mariah Elizabeth calls it drainting, so I guess for this drainting, I chose to do a dragon because there's apparently something called Smogust. Artists draw dragons every day in August. I'm definitely not going to draw a dragon every day, but I did want to do at least one. Plus, House of the Dragon just ended, and I miss the dragons. Also, I used an AI generator to make a colorful dragon reference, and I'm not yet sure how I feel about that. The jury's still out. Now, usually when doing large areas like the belly and the wings, I would probably use a larger marker, but I realized that not everyone has multiple sets of markers, so I wanted to stick to only using this set. But this really tested the limits of the marker's juiciness. I had to keep pumping the tip to get more paint to flow, and then I worry about pumping it too much because eventually the paint starts to come down the side of the tip. And it also sort of filled this little chamber here, Is that normal? Can I get a stationary engineer in the chat? Okay, I just need to offer a disclaimer with this dragon that this is not my best work, and it is not the marker's fault. I aimed a little too high and spent way too long on this piece. I tried to get way too detailed, and while I like each individual area, when they're all viewed together, they just don't flow well. And this dragon looks pretty psychotic. Also, his head just makes the whole thing worse. The paint was a little less vibrant over the black paper, but honestly, that can be expected. They would go down nice and bright, but dry a little darker like all acrylic paint does. I really liked all of the colors, I just wish there was a different assortment of them. I personally don't need 5 greens and 2 of the exact same brown. And I need more than 2 blues and 1.5 yellows. The markers are pretty much your standard plastic tip paint marker. They get clogged sometimes, they can kind of be scratchy, and they obviously splatter. You can see the splatters on this picture if your eyes can see past the chaos. The paper I really like. It's nice and thick, it didn't get chewed up at all by the paint markers. It did warp a little with all of the layers of paint, but that's gonna happen with any paper, I think. So as far as this set, I think they're pretty good. They wouldn't be my choice for like a main heavy lifting marker set, but as an additional set for lines and fine details, they're pretty good. With that rave review, I do want to let you know that Grabby has offered a 15% discount for anything on their website with the code ROSE15. Which is great because Grabby also sent me this pack of brush tip markers, which I am very excited about because I love a brush tip. This is 36 dual tone brush tip markers. Not sure what dual tone means, but we're going to go ahead and open this and see. Ooh, these are pretty. I really like the style of the marker. And they look like they have a nice range of colors. Let's see if they're labeled. Well, they don't have names, but they at least have numbers. And both sides are brush tip. There's no swatch cards included, so I guess that means I need to make a list. After testing all of these out, there seems like a pretty good range of colors. There are plenty of light pastels and darker colors. There's still only a couple of oranges, but there's plenty of different browns if you like neutrals, and I like that there's a few different grays. Also, a random personal annoyance, but I really like colors to be in rainbow order, and these pinky peach ones right here are messing it up. And what is this color in the middle of the greens? What are you? You're like a cream color. Why are you there? Anyway, like I said, that's just a personal pet peeve of mine. So far, the markers look pretty opaque. Some of the darker colors may need multiple coats, like this brown one and maybe this pinky purple. Hard to tell until I test them. So I think first I'm going to test them on this paper again. And this time, I'm going to use the navy blue paper because it's been calling out to me, and I have an idea. I decided to go with a colorful landscape because if you've been around for a while, you know I love my colorful landscapes. And I thought the blue paper might make a nice undertone for the drainting. Over the darker paper, the lighter color markers needed about 3 coats to not be streaky. The darker colors were absolutely fine after 1 coat. Blending was not my best work here on the river, but I just couldn't bring myself to layer as much as I normally would because this paper was awful. There were all these little paper fibers that kept coming off on the brush, and they would get chunky and gunk up the brush, so I had to keep wiping it off on a paper towel. I have no idea what this was because rubbing my fingers across the page, nothing came off on my fingers, and this definitely didn't happen on the black paper, which I used much scratchier markers on. But it was definitely starting to show and leaving clumps on the page. And I think that's why not only did I give up on blending out the river, but I also abandoned this tree that I was preserving the sketch of. I think my brain must still be a little worn out because with the dragon and this piece, I just got sick of them about 3/4 of the way through. I just couldn't see me spending another 30 minutes on a tree, so I just covered it up. I mean, I really like the colors in this set, and I really like this picture. I just think the paper really got to me. You can definitely see the chunks up close. The markers do okay over a dark medium, but they definitely require more coats. You can still see the tree ghosting through a bit, even after 3 coats. So next, I'm going to test these on a white canvas board. I wanted to use a canvas board instead of a canvas because they're a little less porous and absorb less paint. And for this, I decided to go with something really colorful and cute, so it would be something that I was excited to draw. Speaking of something I'm excited for, we are almost to 10,000 subscribers. To celebrate, I'm going to do a Q&A video once we get there. I put a post on my community tab, so if you have any questions you'd like answered, make sure to head over there and get them in. Now, at first with this painting, I thought the blending was going great, but then I realized that it was just that the yellows are actually so close in color. The pinks and the blues weren't really blending at all, so I switched to a more blocky style instead. And these work great for that. I love brush tips. You never have to worry about the paint not flowing. I probably could have helped myself out by eliminating this area in the middle where the colors sort of blend into each other, but I didn't think of that at the time. I used some of the really dark colors to shade, which was a little hard with no dark yellow or really dark pink, but there are plenty of different tones of brown, so I made it work with those. The white brush tip is fantastic for the juicy highlights. I decided to fill in the whole background with one color because I wanted to see how well it would cover large areas. I did 3 coats and you can still see a few streaks, but for such a large area, that's pretty good. Ultimately, I really like these markers. The paint flows well, there's a good color range. You might need a few coats for full opacity, but sometimes that transparency can also help. I was able to layer a lighter color over the waffle cone lines and tone them down to a color that I liked better. And I really like how I was able to do a dark color of ice cream texture, put a layer of the ice cream color over it, and then on the top add a lighter color for more texture. It came out really cool looking. I also think it's a really good value to have double tip markers so you'll get more colors. Sometimes it can be hard to find the color you want off of the swatch card, but it also might be because the markers are new to me. Maybe if I use them a lot, I would be able to find them by sight easier. The brush tips are very nice. They're kind of thick and not super flimsy, so they retain their shape and you can get nice fine details. Wait, that's not a grabby marker. How did that get there? Also, I really like the marker casing. It looks really high-end and not really like anything else out there. So, that's it. I don't really know how to end this video. No, I can do it. Be a professional. Okay, I like the markers generally. I think if you're only going to get one set, get the brush tip markers. The fine tip ones are a good, supplemental set if you need something for details. Grabby has graciously provided a permanent 15% discount code for my viewers. So use Rose15 for 15% off anything on their website. Ooh, I wonder if I can use that for myself. Anyway, I'll add some links in the description. So that's all for this week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.